So this game is called Strike Vector. It's an aerial dogfighting game. And here I was going to show you some stuff that I thought you need to rebind with. I've actually fixed what I was going to tell you about here. But aside from that, there's a bunch of stuff that you might actually want to think about rebinding when you play this game. Like, I've rebound my switch fly button, which switches you from a jet to a harrier, as it's called in the game. And really, it makes it so that you don't actually fly around anymore. You just can freely rotate instead. And you use that a lot. It improves your mobility substantially. So you really need it to be able to really compete with the other players. So you need to have that bound to something that you have easy access to, so you don't have to think about it too much. One of the other things that I changed there was I have bloom turned off because the game's already kind of visually busy. And also I switched from third person to first person view because I think that the game is easier to play when you have it set to first person view rather than third person. I feel like things like the speed and how close things appear to your plane basically are visually misleading in third person, so I feel like it's a lot more difficult to play in that mode, so I prefer first person myself. I also feel like it's a little bit easier to sort of understand like where and what you're shooting at, but that might just be me. Alright, so you can't easily see when I'm switching modes here. The way that you can tell is, see that there's a little light that's turning orange and turning on and off in the upper right hand corner of the screen. It's attached to the in-game model of my plane, and every time it turns orange it means I've switched to Harrier mode, which reduces my velocity drastically but allows me to freely rotate in place. And there's really not much of a penalty for doing that, so the idea about it is that it's meant to allow you to very quickly change directions. The person I was trying to kill there managed to crash, and I think I'm about to be shot down here. And so, yeah, I'm trying to hide, but the game kind of glitches out a little bit and I move through something. And so anyway, I've been shot down here, and so I crash. You can actually crash into other people after you die and kill them, and it'll reward you points for it. But if you actually crash without someone like killing you first, then you lose a kill if you've scored any kills. And if you're playing in a team game like this is right here, then your team actually will lose a kill. So even if you already are at 0 kills, you can continue losing kills for your team, which can make it really detrimental. As you can see, I'm kind of bouncing off stuff here. That's because I'm switching to Harrier mode right before I run into them, which means that I don't die. If I didn't switch right before I hit the things, I would die immediately. I would just crash and lose points like I was just talking about. And like, you might have noticed that I'm not hitting people too much here. It's pretty difficult to hit things in Strike Vector. That guy just crashed. And the reason for that is because, like, people are moving very fastly, they can swiftly change the direction that they're moving, and most of the things that you're fired, you have to actually leave. You don't have anything that instantly connects for the most part. There's a couple weapons that kind of do that. The shotgun does that, and it's actually like a weapon I'd recommend for newer players especially. And there I crashed because I switched modes at the wrong time. It's a weapon I'd actually recommend for newer players because it has a wide spread, so it's easy to hit things, and it feels like it connects pretty much instantly when you fire it, and it has a much more range than you would expect it to. Like, it doesn't have a huge amount of range, but it has more range than you'd expect. But I feel like in the end it's actually one of the worst weapons in the game. I think that maybe the homing weapons might be worse than the shotguns are, because you can dodge all of the homing weapons like I just did right there. You probably couldn't really tell, but the reason that the screen is wiggling like that is because I'm actually rolling. The character's actually executing a roll, and that's because when you do that, the homing missiles will shoot past you. And like, there's a beeping noise that you can hear when you have something locked onto you, and when it gets really, really rapid, if you roll right then the missiles will miss you every time, and so they're fairly easy to avoid for the most part. It's a little more difficult to avoid swarm missiles, but those don't even deal that much damage, so they don't worry me that much. Much more worried about people with shotguns. I'm using rockets right now, and so rockets just move in a straight line. so you have to lead them substantially. I just ran into that guy. If I had been at lower health, I would have died. And that person used one. There's special weapons basically that you can choose to equip whenever you're loading out. But I don't think that I'm gonna go and hang here. Yeah, I don't. But the one I have equipped is the Tesla coil, which I kind of like because I favor getting in close and brawling and stuff. It's really not actually that useful, especially on this stage. On stage, like if you're in a full server where there's like 16 people and you're playing an actual deathmatch or bounty hunter or one of the other modes where this would make more sense, then it's actually a lot better. But here, this stage is wide open and it's nowhere close to full. So what you're looking at instead is I have like an inefficient build for the number of players that are in the game and for the map. Because rockets aren't especially good on this map either. Like I favor them when like that guy got shot down, but I favor them when I'm on a stage that is a lot more closed in and busy, so that I have lots of walls that people are flying near, so I can shoot at the walls instead of just at the player, and they'll be hit by the area of effect from the rockets. Whenever I do that, I normally like take the... There's different modifications you can take for weapons, and I take the one that makes it so that they have additional blast radius and damage, so that I can get more kills from shooting at walls, basically, instead of having to hit players. It's a lot easier to hit walls, they don't move. But yeah, what's happening here as far as the game is concerned, like in game terms, is the team I'm on is winning, and it's entirely because the people on my team have crashed less. They've gotten more kills too, but they've crashed less. So, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen below the rotating compass radar thing, there's two bars. One has some orange and one has some blue, and those are showing the number of kills that currently count. And that number goes up and down because every time someone crashes, like basically because they flew into something, their team loses a point, like I said earlier. So right now, my team is ahead pretty much entirely because we're crashing into stuff less. So it's pretty vital not to crash into things constantly. And you can see I'm trying to lead this guy here, but he's so far away. And he knew I was following him and shooting at him, so he let out a stalker mine is what they're called. And it's a mine that like drifts towards players when they're nearby. And I didn't realize I was there, so I just ran into it and died. Now, like the way that you keep track of where people are, aside from the radar in the upper left-hand corner, is you look for arrows. See right now when this guy goes off screen or is about to, an arrow appears pointing in the direction that he is. So if I just rotate in that direction, I'll eventually see him again, although it's kind of hard. And if it's too far away, then it stops tracking him. One of the passives that there's passives in this game also on top of special abilities that you can use, and one of them makes it so that people don't appear on radar unless they're very close by. And so a lot of people will use that, I think. Well, not a lot of people, but like some of the better players will use that, as well as the modifications on weapons that make it so that you don't appear on radar when you fire shots. And yeah, I mean, this is a really difficult stage, actually. Most of them are not this hard. Like, this is especially difficult, and if you were a newer player, I think you would probably not be having a good time here, because you would just die the whole time by crashing into stuff, and you probably wouldn't even notice at first, but you'd be making your team lose if you were in team deathmatch, and you would have no points if you weren't. Although it is really pretty, so definitely has that going for it. And the game does look really nice in third-person mode. I just think that it's less functionally usable. I don't know. It's probably just a personal preference on my end. But yeah, I like rockets for closed-in areas. This isn't a good example of one. And I like shotguns for areas where you have to where you're planning on chasing people a lot, but they aren't very wide open. So this is not good for either really shotguns or rockets, this particular stage, which actually makes it better than a lot of the other stages, because a lot of them favor shotguns or rockets, and so that makes things, well, it could make things monotonous if it wasn't for the fact that the people who actually tend to do the best just use Gatling guns. Here I'm switching to shotguns, but the round's about to end, because the rounds are actually all on timers. It's not really especially noticeable, because a lot of the time you'll actually just reach the preset goals, which here is 25 kills, but we're pretty far away from that. I think that we're at like 5 and or 4. We have 4 kills now. Now we have less because I just crashed. But the enemy team has no points right now, so you know. And I'm intended to switch to third-person view here so that you could see what it looks like when you switch between the different modes in third person, because it's really obvious that you're switching between 2 separate modes in third person. But I forgot to do it because the round ended too quickly. I was just trying to get to the enemies. But yeah, like as you can see, the enemy team, they had what, 28 crashes, and our team only had like 12 or something, maybe like 14, and it makes a pretty big difference. If you liked this video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to see more Strike Factor videos, please tell me in the comments and I'll be happy to make some. Thanks for watching. Bye.